What's going on, Packers fans? Happy Packers game day. Welcome into our pregame show here on the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Appreciate you guys being here. This is going to be a fun one, meaning the game, but obviously the pregame show here as well. But really excited for Packers Commanders after immediately having a big game against Detroit week one, which Green Bay dominated. It feels already like this is another big fight feel with Thursday Night Football, prime time, two playoff teams from a season ago, both who won easily in week one, both trying to go 2-0. This one, again, feels really fun. Hope you guys are excited for it. I know I am as well. We've got so much to get into from this game. I know you guys have a ton of great questions. We'll start from an injury standpoint. We don't have an actives yet, of course. That's going to come an hour and a half before kickoff. The reporting has mostly been throughout the day that there's not a lot of optimism that either Zach Tom or Aaron Banks are going to play in this game. I will take that a step further by saying did I say Brant Banks? I meant Aaron Banks if I said Brant Banks, but Aaron Banks and Zach Tom likely not to play in this game. With Brant Banks being called up from the practice squad to the active roster, that pretty much tells you all you need to know. For those of you who don't know, you go from 47 players to 48 players on the game day roster that you get on your active roster by going to 8 offensive linemen. By keeping an 8th offensive lineman on the roster, you basically get an additional roster spot. So pretty much everyone goes into a game with 8 offensive linemen, and there's really no need ever for 9. 9 is just probably a step too far. If you get to your 4th backup offensive lineman, things have probably just gone catastrophically bad for you anyway. But everyone goes into the game with 8 offensive linemen. When calling up Brant Banks, you don't need to do that if either Zach Tom or Aaron Banks are going to play in this game, because you've got Rasheed Walker, you've got Jordan Morgan, you've got Elton Jenkins, you've got Sean Ryan, you've got Darian Kennard, you've got Donovan Jennings, you've got Anthony Belton as your 7. If either of those guys are able to play, meaning Zach Tom or Aaron Banks, they would be your 8th. It would take both of them being out in order that you would actually need to call up Brant Banks for him to be your 8th offensive lineman. So the indication here, not just the reporting that things didn't seem to be trending in the right direction, but the indication by calling up Brant Banks would be that both Zach Tom and Aaron Banks are likely out of this game. Now, it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. Until we see the inactives, we will not know for sure. There's always the possibility that they want to keep, that one of them is going to be active in this game, but because there's some injury concern there, they want to be a little bit more cautious and call up a 9th offensive lineman. That's probably overkill. I wouldn't expect that. But like I said, it's not anything that is firm and guaranteed until we actually see it. But my expectation here is that Green Bay will be without both Aaron Banks and Zach Tom for this game. Furthermore, that would likely mean Jordan Morgan is going to be your starting left guard, and Darian Kennard is going to be your starting right tackle. Now, in totality, Rasheed Walker is the starter at left tackle. We saw that last week. There was no real question about that. At center, it's still going to be Elton. At right guard, it's still going to be Sean Ryan. You have 3/5 of your starting lineup. At left guard, to me, the difference between Banks and Morgan is very negligible. I think Morgan is going to be able to go in there, and that's not a shot at Aaron Banks. That's more of I believe in Jordan Morgan at that left guard spot. I think he's going to be totally fine. I think he's going to play some really good football there today. I don't have much concern about that spot. The big one is going at right tackle from Zach Tom to Darian Kennard. Now, this is why, to me, this trade for Goody for Kennard was so important. Why it's important is because I truly believe Kennard can go out there and play solid enough football that you don't need to change your offense. So what does that mean? When we've seen in the past, Alex Light going at right tackle, Jason Spriggs, Kyle Murphy, some of those players going at right tackle, you cannot execute your offense the way that you want to by just saying, hey, go out and block the left defensive end. They need help. You have to keep in a tight end or a running back. You have to shift things their way. You have to change your offense in some real way because that particular player is out there. I truly believe that Kennard is good enough that you don't need to significantly change your offense. From time to time in a key situation, do you maybe want to just have a little bit more of a chip on his side, or maybe give him the help more than Rasheed Walker, whereas maybe Rasheed would normally get the help instead of Zach Tom? Sure, that definitely is probably the case, right? But in general, you can go out and run your offense and not lose a ton of sleep of like, we're just going to get blown up at right tackle every single play by having this guy out there. And that to me is why it is so important. Now, if it would have been Belton, I think you could have got by, but it's just different. Belton is extremely rough around the edges, super talented, super physical, and can move some people. But like, he also might just get beat in a millisecond too because he messed up his technique. I think that's a little bit more of the gambit you play when you're putting Belton in, whereas it definitely feels like Kennard is a little bit more game ready and ready to go in and, you know, just basically take the assignment on and get you through the game. So that trade is already paying some pretty massive dividends if, as we're expecting here, or at least I'm expecting, Zach Tom and Aaron Banks are out of this game. It seems like Green Bay will still be in solid, you know, hands overall in the offensive line, but definitely worth monitoring. There is one thing I will add slightly to this equation. It's not entirely impossible that they might not get, if not break even, maybe a slight, even a little bit better as a run blocking team. Zach Tom is a solid run blocker at right tackle. Okay. He does a really good job of kind of sealing things, getting in the way. But he's not a people mover. He's not a big guy. Darian Kennard adds some size and some movability at right tackle. So while you definitely lose in pass pro, that's a big loss. Zach Tom's one of the best in the league. Darian Kennard is not. And so that's a loss there. But in run blocking, you might get an actual small increase going from Zach Tom to Darian Kennard in that situation. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, but that's going to be the big thing as we get closer to kickoff and get those inactives an hour and a half before. Now, they also called up Micah Robinson, which is interesting as well. If you remember, last week they called up Micah Robinson because Nate Hobbs was going to be out of the game. They had one absence at corner, therefore the call up of Micah Robinson. Well, we know there's one absence at corner already. Bo Melton. Bo Melton is out for this game. His injury designation is out. He is not playing. Does that mean by only calling up one corner that Nate Hobbs is going to play in this game? That's the other interesting one. There hasn't been as much on that. He would have been limited in practice all week, which meant that, you know, he didn't have any days that he was potentially out. That is a really interesting aspect of this as well. And if there is a Nate Hobbs, I wonder if they use him more in like just obvious passing downs, keep him for some of those key situations. But that would be a potential big upgrade on the defensive side of things. And getting him in those obvious passing downs instead of Javon Bullard being in the slot, I think could really go a long way in helping your pass defense as well. So the big ones that we're going to be keeping an eye on as we get to the inactives today, again, expectations probably without Aaron Banks and likely without Zach Tom, but do they see a return of Nate Hobbs in this one? That would certainly be a really big opportunity for the defense to get one of their key players back. As far as like the other inactives, you know, from an injury standpoint, the Hobbs one and the offensive line one were kind of the big ones to kind of keep an eye on. Baron Sorrell, I'm guessing, is going to be good to go. Now, we know he doesn't have an injury designation, but Bretton Cox went on IR. They probably still want 5 defensive ends, so I would expect that you are going to see Baron Sorrell be active for the very first time. We'll see what type of impact that he has. Again, I should mention, that Bretton Cox IR means that he's going to be gone for the next 4 weeks at least. We'll see what comes of that. The other one that I would keep an eye on would be Zane Anderson, right? Zane Anderson is one of their core special teams players. Without having Bo Melton out there, getting somebody like Zane Anderson back could be really, really important for Green Bay on special teams. So that's another one to keep an eye on as we get closer and closer to those inactives coming up an hour and a half before kickoff. All right, let's get to Quamat. With the super chat. Thank you so much. Can you explain the new personal foul penalty that we saw and X got flagged for it last week after getting headbutted? Yeah, there's no new penalty here, Quamat. What they're doing is they're emphasizing taunting. If there's any sign of taunting whatsoever, it's basically an immediate 15-yard penalty. So the interpretation was that Xavier McKinney got in the defender's face, or stood, I forget if it was standing over him or kind of got in his face. I think it was getting in his face a little bit and gave him a little bit of the business and got a personal foul or, unnecessary conduct or whatever, penalty on that one. And then the guy came up and kind of headbutted Xavier McKinney, which you would expect to be like kind of cancel it out, right? And to have offsetting penalties. For whatever reason, they did not call offsetting penalties, and they're just really focused right now on those unsportsmanlike conduct. That's what I was looking for. Unsportsmanlike conduct penalties where there's any sort of taunting whatsoever. So it's a point of emphasis. Every single year, we get some random new point of emphasis penalty that nobody asked for. ever in the history of mankind. And the NFL is like, ooh, I know what we should do. Like, let's do this. Anytime anyone gets a little bit demonstrative that they did something good and want to celebrate and kind of rub it in the other person's face, but the immediate 15-yard penalty. So that's what it is. It's just a point of emphasis on an already existing penalty. I think it's stupid. I wish they would stop and knock it off, but it is what it is. So you got to adjust accordingly. And hopefully we don't see anyone from Green Bay make a mistake and cost themselves a 15-yard penalty on the play. All right, let's get to all of your amazing questions. Should have about the next hour, I would say, about 5:10, 5:15, somewhere in that range. If we've got enough questions and everything's going well, we'll try to get to as much as I possibly can over that time. So let's get into it right away. Snoop Robbie Rob, thoughts on Brant Banks? Can he be a future swing tackle? No, you didn't grade preseason, but PFF was impressed putting him on their preseason all-rookie team. He was really good in pass pro. What you need to know about Brant Banks is that he went only against third stringers, basically. He did not get any of those opportunities with the first or second team as much. So sometimes you get a little bit of a bump from just who you're going against. But we saw other undrafted free agent offensive linemen that didn't fare anywhere near as well as Brant Banks. What you're saying is what they're hoping for, right? They've done this on numerous occasions, the sort of Yosh Nijman plan, if you will. And if Brant Banks stays on that plan, he'll get 3 years. So he'll get 2 years, and then the third will be the determining factor. So he'll get the practice squad this year. His goal would be to make it to the 53. So in their second year, Alex Light, Yosh Nijman, Kadeem Telford, Caleb Jones, their developmental offensive tackles, usually practice squad the first year. Then in the second year, you make the active roster as kind of like the 9th or 10th offensive lineman, right? Kind of a red shirt still. And then the third year, they bring you back, and then that's the make or break year. Either you are ready to be a swing tackle, Yosh Nijman was, or you're getting cut, which was the case with Kadeem Telford, Caleb Jones, and Alex Light. So that would be my guess of kind of the pathway that Brant Banks is on. I wasn't a huge fan coming out of college. If I'm being honest, I actually liked some of the other guys like Tyler Cooper a little bit better. But I was impressed that he didn't give up any pressures. He definitely looked the part. So we'll see if he can kind of keep that going and make a name for himself and maybe eventually become that swing tackle for Green Bay. Do you have any idea why PFF hated Aaron Banks' performance on Sunday? It sounds like you thought he was pretty solid and they gave him a grade of, wow, that was horrible. Yeah, talk to Mike Wall about that as well. If you missed that in our live chat, he thought Banks played well as well. So that to me is all I need to know. I do like when it gets confirmed. That was another one where he was talking about Carrington Valentine as well. I'm like, all right, we saw the same thing there too. I thought Carrington had a good game. The other one, I think Xavier McKinney, if I remember correctly, did not get a super impressive grade. And I was watching him. 1 second. Xavier McKinney had 54.7 grade from PFF. And I watched him, I graded him. I had, I want to say like a +3.5 or +0.45 grade on him, something to that extent, but I had a really nice grade on him overall and thought he had a really nice game. Yes, he had the personal foul penalty, but everything else I thought he did really well. And I'm like, man, I don't know what they're seeing on this. And then if you caught Jeff Hafley's presser, he thought it was the best game that Xavier has played. He's like, he didn't have the interceptions and he didn't have the flash plays, but he's like, in terms of doing what he was asked to do, stopping the run, coming up and playing aggressively, he's like, I think that was the best game he's had as a Packer. So that, again, take every grade that you see, right? I'm not just bashing PFF here. In fact, I really like what PFF does. I'm saying it to mine as well. There's individual evaluations on games, and I know PFF has a process or whatever. Sometimes I think that process can almost be worse, but there's an evaluation process. Everyone's going to see it in a little bit of a different way. It's a bar to some extent, but you can choose to take it or leave it. Again, even the grades for me, when I do them, it was something for me personally, when I very first started doing it, of like, I'm going to go through and evaluate every player and every play because I really wanted to be able to see everything. And I really wanted to be able to speak educatedly on it. It wasn't to put a number grade on it or a letter grade on it or anything like that, but I had kind of the data anyway. And I'm like, well, I might as well put it out there, and people liked it. So I continued to do it. But, take all of it with some level of grain of salt. But to me, I thought Aaron Banks was more than solid as a starter. I had a very slight negative grade, meaning like basically we're talking a neutral grade for Banks. But I thought he did some really good stuff in that game. I thought he would only continue to get better if he was able to continue to play. Unfortunately, he was not. And now he's going to probably miss this game, and we'll see what comes of it in week 3. But no, I thought he had a solid game. I don't know. I couldn't say from PFF standpoint what they saw, but they clearly liked him a lot less. But again, I know Mike Wall and I liked him in this particular game. Am I rocking a white outfit inside the press box tonight, Andy? I did consider, I don't know what I'm wearing yet. The first of all, Killer Kenny, the idea that you think that I've planned out some sort of fit for any game or anything ever in my life is very funny. But no, I have nothing specific. I did think a little bit of like, I could just wear like because I wear, you guys have seen, I wear a lot of like just plain white shirts, either long sleeve or short sleeve, or like a plain white sweatshirt. And I have the white hat, obviously, for the Live Lucky hat. So I did think, I'm like, I'm not wearing anything Packers related. I could just go kind of wearing, like light jeans with a white shirt and a white hat to do something similar. I probably will not, because it probably is a little bit too obvious in that situation, but I don't know. I have no idea what I'm wearing to the game. I really want a win just to shock the NFL universe. That's interesting, Ben, that you think that would shock the NFL. I don't think that would shock. I mean, the Packers are 3.5-point favorites right now. Now, if it's a big win, if they win by like 20 or something, that's a statement, right? That I think maybe shocks the NFL universe a little bit more. But no, Green Bay's the favorite in this one. They're at home, 3.5 the last time I checked. I don't think anyone's shocked in this one if Green Bay wins the game. I kind of get what you're saying overall of like, hey, just go and show them exactly what you're capable of, sort of thing. But to me, this would not be an upset if Green Bay won this game. Just looking at the roster, Green Bay is more talented. Doesn't mean they will win, though. I think both these teams are really good. And I know nobody is, but don't sleep on Jane Daniels. The dude is a heck of a quarterback. And I think Green Bay is going to give him and the entire Commanders offense a lot of trouble today. Now, it is up to Green Bay to play with the same level of energy and intensity that they just did a week ago. The one thing is, if you look at on defense, you're worried about the offensive line on offense a little bit, but on defense, if anything, yes, I know that you lose Brenton Cox, you lose Bo Melton, but you might, I don't know yet, but you might get back Nate Hobbs. If anything, you might be a little bit better personnel wise on defense this week than you were a week ago. Even if Hobbs doesn't play, you're basically breaking even going from Brenton Cox to Barron Sorrell. Bo Melton didn't play a snap on defense this past week. So I think they're going to be in a good spot overall defensively. We'll see how many snaps that Micah Parsons can play. But no, I'm really excited about the Packers defense in this one. And I do think that they have the ability to make things very difficult for Washington's offense. But Washington's offense is very talented as well. This is why it's just a really fun game, big fight feel, and I cannot wait to get out there over at Lambeau. Happy game day, y'all. Andy, what matchup are you most anxious to watch tonight? I'm excited to watch Micah Parsons versus Josh Connerly Jr. I'm going to say this, and I think this is true. I can't remember it ever happening like this. There's never been a player that has grasped my attention on any given play more than Micah Parsons did in that week 1 game. I've never been drawn to a player more, meaning like I'm taking my eye completely off the ball and what's happening in real time. And I'm literally just watching what Micah Parsons is doing. That I don't think there's ever been a player that has drawn my attention that way in pretty much my entire time, certainly covering the team, but even probably going past, back longer than that, where I just literally wanted to see what that one specific player was doing. So Josh Connerly Jr., a rookie I really liked coming out, had a really solid first week as his starting right tackle. That is a rookie right tackle versus Micah freaking Parsons. That's the one that I'm most excited about. As far as like matchups I'm concerned about, it's just Terry McLaurin going up against Green Bay secondary. He's a heck of a wide receiver. He can beat you in a variety of different ways. He's going to get matched up from time to time on some of those corners with advantageous matchups, kind of like we saw with Amon-Ra St. Brown against Javon Bullard this past game, where sometimes you're going to go man to switch things up, and sometimes he's going to get that advantageous look. Can you contain him? Can you keep him in check? Green Bay's defense has been really good at that. They've been really, really good, basically since A.J. Brown in week 1 last year, of containing the big play wide receivers, but they're going to have their hands full with Terry McLaurin. That's probably the one I'm keeping an eye on there, but the one I'm most excited about certainly is Connerly Jr. versus Micah Parsons. You have talked about Banks and Tom. I see there is a post-game show scheduled. You're the GOAT, Andy, for doing that on a Thursday night. Well, I will note that will be Ross Uglum doing the live post-game show today, who is awesome. I'm really excited to have him on post-show. So he will take the live post-game show. As soon as the game is done, he'll be live on here. I will be in the press in the press conference room, asking questions, waiting for traffic to die down a little bit, writing down some notes. And then once traffic dies down a little bit, I'll come home and then start immediately. Then I'll do the rewatch when I get home and then start immediately preparing for the podcast tomorrow, record the podcast, upload, edit, probably get to bed usually around like 3-4 in the morning. And then I'll be up tomorrow morning. If you want to see me live, I'll be up tomorrow morning, Pack-A-Day radio show. You can find it 105.7 The Fan FM in Milwaukee. You can also find it on thefanmilwaukee.com or over on YouTube. Just search Pack a Day Radio Show. I'll be live 8 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning, and Ross Uglum will be joining me at 8:40 tomorrow morning as well to kind of talk over the game. But live post-game show tonight will be Ross Uglum and not yours truly. Just really difficult. And I know this is what you were complimenting me on. Really difficult. By the time I get home, it's usually like midnight. For a post game show, at best it's midnight. And then if I go an hour on that, now I'm really kicking things even more for recording the podcast, and might not even get to bed at all if I do the live. So thankful to Ross Uglum for taking the live show on tonight. Andy, I haven't heard much talk about LaFleur going for it on fourth down with the Jordan Love sneak. I would have been fine with taking the field goal to go up 14, but I love the aggressiveness. Yeah, I thought so too. Something I think we needed to see a little bit more of. I like the play call in that situation. I like the execution. I like the decision to go for it. Think we should even see a little bit more of that going forward, and want to continue to see Matt LaFleur be aggressive in those type of situations. Laura, go Pack go. Happy game day to you as well. Go Pack go, Dennis. Happy game day to you, Alex. Greetings from Vegas. I'll be there in 3 weeks-ish for the bye week. So I'm going to be Thursday through Sunday in Vegas for the bye week. Looking forward to that. Rest in peace. Yeah, I don't want to talk about anything political here. I think what we're here for is to stay away from it. Certainly condone any form of political violence, though. I will definitely say that. Dennis, go Pack go. How did the CBS match? How did the CBS? I'm like, what about CBS? How did the cornerbacks match up to our wide receivers? Golden primed for a breakout tonight. Yeah, I really do like their corners. I think Stain Ristel in the slot is a really talented player. I think on the outside, they got Amos in the second round, which is a really good pickup for them. And then, of course, last year they go out and get Lattimore from the Saints. I was talking to Jamal Forrest, who does Hogs Haven. He came on the radio show today. One of the things I mentioned is I think sometimes when you get a player mid-season like that, sometimes it's tough to get him integrated in the defense. I think Lattimore, it seems much more, just integrated, feeling comfortable in this Commanders defense. I thought he looked good this past week. So that's a good trio of corners. I just think Green Bay is going to go with, matchups when they can. And I think a lot of it's going to be play calling as well. Matt LaFleur has had Dan Quinn's number. Dan Quinn is usually very set in his ways of how he likes to call defense. And usually when coordinators are like that, Matt LaFleur knows exactly how to pick them apart. So what I'm looking for more in this one is, does Dan Quinn throw some change-ups, do things differently than his defense is normally designed to do to get Matt LaFleur a little bit off his game? That's what is most intriguing to me. But Matt's owned Dan Quinn for the most part. And if there is no change, I would expect that to continue. And I think we could see some impressive performances, hopefully from players like Matthew Golden at wide receiver. Saw Cox went to IR. Do we know what the injury is? Guess it's good we haven't traded away any edge or end players yet, huh? Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, if they would have traded, like, let's say they traded away Enigbari, right? So like they weren't going to trade away, I don't think, Gary or Van Ness ever, unless that was, again, part of the Parsons trade. But like, assuming those three are there, like, let's say they traded away Enigbari and now Brenton Cox is out for this game. I honestly don't think there's that much difference with Barron Sorrell going to that 4 spot and calling up Aaron Mosby from the practice squad. You've got Colin Oliver that's going to get probably back from injury. I wouldn't think too long from now. So I still think you probably would have been okay. But yeah, this is why in general, you're very careful with trading away, even from areas of depth, because you just never know how quickly one of those positions can all of a sudden become an area of weakness. And you don't want to accelerate that by trading a player away from a spot like that. So yeah, I'm with you. And this is why, to me, like the idea of like, oh, they should trade Romeo. Why are you trying to trade away good players? They're fighting for a Super Bowl right now. Last I checked, that 5th round pick that they get in return is not going to do much for them this upcoming season. Romeo Doubs can. I don't want to see anybody traded away unless you're getting a player back in, return at a different position where it's maybe an area of weakness and you're just getting a better player, then so be it. But I don't have any interest in kind of trading away even from those areas of strength right now for this exact kind of reason. Bart Houston's flak jacket. Andy, do you think we could shop Musgrave? It's year 3 and he hasn't been integrated into the offense hardly at all, at least in the way that he should be. Plus, he just falls over when he gets the ball. So I'll say a couple things here, Bart. The first thing I'll always say is the last time you want to trade a player is when he has the least value possible. If you're wanting to get rid of him, why is any team calling about Luke Musgrave? It's just not going to happen. You're selling him for pennies on the dollar. And you don't, it's not like you have it's not like John Fitzpatrick's just like beating down the door, tearing up the world, ready to be tight end 2. I think he's a solid player, but he kind of fits as tight end 3 perfectly. And I do think Musgrave had a really great training camp. So when you're not going to get much in return, there's still a lot of talent there. Like, let's see if that can get cultivated in any real way. I'm not saying that it will. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily expecting it. I do think he was so much better in training camp than we've seen him in the past. And I'm still hoping that he can make some plays that are more than worthwhile there. But we need to see a little bit more from Luke Musgrave, no question about it. But you're not getting anything in return. So I would much rather you just hang on to him right now, see if you can, again, cultivate all that talent and figure out a way to get him a little bit more involved in the offense in a positive way. Hey, welcome from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is where Brett the Hitman Hart's from, right? How much does not having Aaron and Zach mean? Yeah, we talked about that at the onset of the show. I think you're going to be fine at left guard with Jordan Morgan. Right tackle is the big one where you're taking a big hit in pass pro. You're probably breaking even. I would say probably breaking even in run blocking. Maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit more of a mover, but probably not as as much of a technician. So I think it's probably break even, but I think they can hang. You're not even having to change the offense in any real sort of significant way, which is huge, but definitely worth keeping a large eye on right tackle with what Darian Kennard is doing with Zach Tom out. Also, I will note, Kennard looked fine last week in a situation where they were winning and there weren't any real obvious pass rush scenarios, right? It's a lot different where, Washington's up 7-0 or something, and it's 3rd and 9, and they know you're passing the ball, and now they're teeing off on Darian Kennard. What does that look like? That we haven't had to see as much. So that's going to be a big question too if you get into some of those scenarios. Commanders don't worry me at all. I think we get away with an easy win. Hope you're right, Brett. They do worry me a little bit more. I do think Green Bay wins, as you guys saw pregame show or preview show for today. I think they win by 10, 27-17. I think it's closer than that, but they get a turnover at the end, kick a field goal at the end to make it a 2-possession game. But I think this is a close one. I think it's a really fun one, but I do think Green Bay gets the win. What can we expect from Hafley tonight against the spread-based air raid RPO attack with a speedy quarterback? Much different matchup than last Sunday, as Jaden rarely, if ever, gets under center. I think you're going to see some similar things. If you guys didn't get a chance to check out the press conference from Jeff Hafley this week, I would recommend doing it. One of the things that I really loved is he said, we're going to still be aggressive. He's like, we can't just sit back and not rush the quarterback. We've got to do our job in getting to the quarterback, make our presence felt, and still get after him. Some point, if that means he scrambles from time to time, it means it, but we're just not going to let him sit in the pocket. I think that's a little bit of a change kind of from what we saw with Jalen Hurts from a year ago. So I would expect them to still be rather aggressive in trying to get after the quarterback and cause some problems. Now, there's going to be a downside to that as well, but I do think it's the right philosophy. I mean, I think the plus side here is you've got really fast linebackers in Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper, and then even Micah Parsons too, doing what he can do. You've got some really speedy options up front. I mean, you got somebody like an LVN playing like basically a 3 technique on obvious passing downs. You've got a lot of different things that you can do, to get more speed and just more eyes on Jaden Daniels up front. And then the other thing is they play a ton of zone defense. So when you see a lot of that zone defense, just means you're going to have all eyes on the quarterback. So if he does take off, everyone's going to be able to react to it, rather than if you're in man, a lot of guys might have their back to the quarterback. So I think they're set up well overall, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Jaden Daniels is still going to be a pain to have to go against because he can beat you in every way imaginable. But Jeff Hafley will have a plan, and usually when Jeff Hafley has a plan, it goes pretty darn well. Yeah, it's sorry to bring him up. All right, Bomber, we went through that. Go Pack Go from Brazil. Does elevating Micah mean no Hobbs, or is it because of no Bo Melton? Again, we went through that, but I think probably, we know there's no Bo Melton. So the fact that they only called up one is hopefully a good sign for Nate Hobbs, but we're just going to have to wait and see for those inactives. But fingers crossed, hopefully it means that Nate Hobbs is able to go in some capacity in this one. And if you're coaching, do you want the ball first again to set the tone? Craig, if I'm coach, I'm going to send my players out to specifically try to lose the coin toss every single time so that I don't have to make the decision, because it really doesn't matter all that much, right? Like it's not like you have a major advantage one way or the other. Just go out and play the game. I don't care if I get the ball first or I have to kick first. Just go out and play the game and execute the way that you game planned all week long. For those of you who've been following me a while, I always want the ball first in general. I think it is your opportunity to go down and score points immediately. And I don't think there's anything that's better or like just like setting the tone and psychologically, I should say, of going down and immediately scoring a touchdown. If you go down and immediately score a touchdown, I feel like it kind of puts the entire other team on tilt, where like they almost feel like they've got to go down and immediately match points, because if they don't go down and score a touchdown right away, even if they get a field goal, you just went right down their throat and immediately scored a touchdown. And like the feeling is like they're just going to do it again. And so like the defense is already having a little bit of a panic, and the offense is like, we better put up 7 points right away. Just think it gets them a little flustered right off the gate. And I think all of a sudden you can get a real great foothold in the game if you can do something like that. So I'm a huge believer in taking the ball first and wanting to go down and try to score that touchdown. We've scripted stuff up all week to specifically attack that style of defense, to go down and score a touchdown right away. And that's my goal. That would be my goal every game that I can, is to take the ball first. I think the other thing too is I think it really gets you in the habit, because what do most other teams do, right? If they win the toss, they defer to the second half. And when they defer, you get the choice. So if I win the toss, I can always choose receive. And if they win the toss, they're going to defer, and then I can always choose receive. So it pretty much guarantees that we can get into a rhythm where we're going to start with the ball every single week. And then you know exactly what the team knows what to do. And it just gets you in exactly that situation more often than not, where it's few and far between that people are choosing to receive right away. So to me, I want the ball. I want to score. I want to set the tone. I want that psychological advantage. And I want my team to always be in the rhythm of knowing we're not going to go game by game. We're not going to decide today, it's going to be the defense's day today or nope, we're going every game. We're taking the ball. We're going to score right away. And that's the expectation that we have. So that's what I would do. Tad thinks the Packers are balling out tonight. Hope you're right, Tad. Had assumed Hobbs for a second. I forgot Melton got injured. Nope, you weren't the only one. I saw a couple of people on Twitter forget that same thing. No, the Watson extension makes it very unlikely that Dobbs stays next year, but do you think Love might try to stand up and keep him? Dobbs seems to be his safety blanket. I don't think so, unless if Dobbs is clearly that guy for Jordan's not going to have to say that. The entire organization will know that like Dobbs is his guy, right? So if that is the case, if Dobbs does become just a clear go-to for Jordan and clearly like wide receiver one, right? As much as that doesn't exist in Green Bay, if he becomes wide receiver one, then you have that conversation. You say, all right, we might need to keep this guy, and you figure out how you can make it feasible. But barring anything like that, I think you're already going to see, once Christian gets back, a lot more involvement of Jaden Reed, a lot more involvement of Matthew Golden, a lot more involvement of Christian Watson. I don't think there's going to be that guy. So no, I do think Dobbs is probably gone after this year. And I think it's a little bit of a likely foregone conclusion, but if he does become that player for Jordan, then you certainly have a discussion on it at that point. All right. So do you think Fitzpatrick has to be on the field more to help block? I just think that they're going to rotate those guys in and out. I think Fitzpatrick's going to play. I mean, what did he play last week? Whatever it was would be my expectation for what you played 15 snaps last week. I would expect that to pretty much be the case week in and week out. If they really focusing on establishing the run, then maybe you do see him a little bit more for Luke Musgrave. But I also will note, like, Fitzpatrick's kind of their quote unquote run blocking tight end. I don't think he's not like this Mercedes Lewis run blocking tight end. He's fine at it. He's better than Kraft and Musgrave, but it's not like he's this dominant run blocker either. You can utilize him there, and I think he'll continue to get about 15 snaps, but I don't think you need to make it much more than that. Washington is an okay team, but who do they beat with a winning record in the regular season? To be fair, Robert, you can basically say the same thing about Green Bay last year, if we're being totally honest about it. Outside of Houston, that was, I think, if not the only one of the only ones. But I think both of these teams still have a lot to prove to the league. But I mean, also Washington did go all the way to the NFC Championship last game as well. So I think if you're looking and comparing last year between Green Bay and Washington, I think Washington has the better resume. Green Bay had the better win week one against Detroit than Washington did against the Giants. But either way, I think Washington's a really good team. I think they're going to be in the conversation again this year. And again, I think that's what makes this game really, really fun, both on paper and hopefully we see that type of game play out. I mean, if Green Bay just wants to go and dominate it, I'll take that one as well. But I think this is going to be a really fun game. Lots of naysayers claiming we beat a Lions team that hadn't figured themselves out yet. Brain drain, line of scrimmage players not having time to gel yet, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's one of the better regular season teams over the last two seasons. If anyone knows how to win regular season games despite injuries or other stuff, even I know their coordinators are gone, whatever, it's still Detroit. Like they're really, really good. we'll see what happens from Detroit from here on out, but I still expect them to be a very good team this year. Renee sees a big night for Jordan Love. Hope you're right on that, Renee. I will gladly take that. Thank you, Andy, for the heads up on everything. Can't wait to see the game. Go Pack Go. Chelios, you and me both. I am anxiously awaiting. We know Robinson got called up. If they were to still make him inactive, would that still count towards the 3 practice squad elevations or no? Correct. If they call him up and then don't make him active, it does still count towards one of the elevations. That does not happen in this situation where it's a Thursday night football or Monday night football as much, because you're literally calling him up the day of the game. On Sunday games, you have to call them up on Saturday. So sometimes there's a little bit more of like, hey, somebody's a game time decision. We don't know if they're going to be able to go. So you have to call up the player as a just in case. And then that player is good to go. And then so you didn't need to actually activate them anyway. It doesn't really happen that way on a Thursday. Like, we're literally hours before kickoff when you're making that decision. They already know if Zach Tom and Aaron Banks are going to go in this situation. They're and same thing obviously with Nate Hobbs. So there's no mystery here when they make those call ups. Evan Williams, 1 pick tonight. Bullard, 1 sack. The second year DBs come into play, like the prediction, Matthias. I'll be keeping an eye out for that. I think Evan getting a second pick would be right on brand for him. He looks really great. I thought he was phenomenal a week ago against Detroit. Matt LaFleur versus Dan Quinn, 3-0 with Matt's team scoring at least 30 each time. Dallas wildcard throwback, anyone? Yeah, he's owned Dan Quinn. No question about it. Mike says finding the fish is key for the D line. Who is that guy tonight? So are you talking about for the Commanders offensive line? Even though Connerly played really well, and even though he's a first round pick and I like him, I still think that's probably the player that you're maybe picking on. I think Allegretti is probably the worst of the 5. Biotish is a solid center. He's not great. Brandon Coleman was a tackle last year, moved inside to guard. I think they have a good offensive line. I think it's a good, solid offensive line, but I don't think there's anyone, even Laramie Tunsil, that really scares me. And I think the 2 through 5, meaning if Tunsil's your 1, I think Coleman, Biotish, Allegretti, Connerly are all beatable. Want to see those guys up front dominate again. It was so fun to watch this past week. They barely brought pressure, rushed with 4 the vast majority of the time, were able to get home against Detroit. They just need to repeat that, and good things are going to consistently happen on defense if they can. I remember the ridiculous emphasis last season on offensive tackles lining up slightly behind the line being a flag. Yeah, there's been that. There's been the like hands to the face, or like hands touching the court, like the roughing the passer quarterback was a really bad one, where that Clay Matthews penalty cost them a game, which was a ridiculous non-roughing the passer penalty at all. There's some new random rule every single year, and it's brutal. The emphasis on the offensive tackle lineup, while the push tush is always offsides. Yeah, that's another one. Just make sure that they're lined up correctly if you're going to allow them to run it. Happy that last year the defense got quite a bit of practice rushing the passer with the discipline that Hafley wants. Had a number of scrambling threats, Murray, Hurts, etc. They'll need it today. Go Pack Go. Yeah, they certainly had their practice against mobile quarterbacks a season ago, and you're only going to see more and more of them as the NFL continues to evolve, right? So you better be able to know how to deal with them. Then Green Bay will be prepared for Jaden Daniels, but being prepared and executing and being a winning performance is, are 2 totally different things. Hopefully they can go out and execute the game plan that I'm sure Jeff Hafley has in place for Jaden Daniels today. Herb Street was very happy to have this game as their first Thursday night football game. I can imagine it's a great game, great matchup, great atmosphere, Lambeau Field, September. It's a beautiful thing. I feel good about the line. I think they can hold up. I mean, Kennard's going to be the big one. Again, Walker, Jenkins, Ryan, all 3 starters. Jordan Morgan's a starting offensive lineman. I have no concerns about that. So just going from Zach Tom to Darian Kennard, that's the one they have to keep an eye on. I think everything else will be fine. And then can they be better run blocking this week? That's the other main question. If Jennings has to come in, does he play center or guard? Donovan, I think you put him at guard. I don't think you mess with a first-time undrafted free agent doing the snap stuff and the checks at the line for Elton Jenkins. So no, it would definitely be at guard if that ended up being the case. Yeah, I think PFF has its value. There's flaws in it, just like anything, just like the same thing with my grades. They're not perfect. I think they're a good starting point. And, what I always would say is, like, if somebody played really well and their PFF grade looks great, then it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If somebody did not play well and their PFF grade is bad, it makes sense, right? I think where I enjoy it a little bit of, like, all right, Xavier McKinney had a bad grade from PFF. I thought he had a good game. So it almost makes me want to go back and watch Xavier McKinney more to see like, all right, what's the discrepancy here? So I think those are the things where you see the discrepancies that you just try to dive into it a little bit more. Is PFF onto something, and did I miss something, or did PFF maybe get something wrong? And sometimes I'm sure it's PFF gets stuff wrong. Sometimes I'm sure I get stuff wrong. But I just think where you see those discrepancies is where it's a little bit more fun to dig in. Yeah, no question. Jaden Daniels is a really, really good quarterback. PFF is like PSA for trading card grading. It's based on the mood that day. It's like anything. It's human, right? PFF grading is human. Refereeing is human. PSA grading is human. My grading is human. There's flaws in it. You just have to take it for what it is. Yeah, Quay was awesome last week. If we see that version of Quay week in and week out, that's going to be really, really exciting for this Packers team. If he can continue to stack success like that and show that week over week, he's immediately going to be, become one of the best linebackers in the league, in my opinion. What happens with Tom tonight? I hope he's ready for week 3 because Myles Garrett is one scary dude. Oh, whatever happens. Yeah, that's a great point, LA Knight enthusiast. That is a very, very, very good point. Yeah, you definitely want him back for week 3. Can't wait for this Super Bowl win in February. To be honest, starting to plan my party now. Get after it, King Kermit. Get those balloons ready. What's up, Andy? I'm really looking forward to seeing how our guys defend a mobile quarterback. They're going to have their work cut out for them, no question. Passion icon, Andy. Not sure about that. Love all the pack, but McManus. Oh, no, we don't need to get into that. Let's see. What are the off chances that Banks or Tom can go tonight that they could have Brandt as a healthy and active? Can they do that to a player who is elevated? Yeah, we just kind of talked about that. You can do that. It is possible. It's just, unless the only way that would really happen, there's 2 ways where this could work, where one of those guys is still active. The first is that one of them is active, but they're really nervous about how much if he's going to be able to make it through the game or not. So they bring up a 9th offensive lineman just in case, where they really want to cover themselves. I really doubt that that's the case, that they would do that. But I guess that's one version that could happen. The second would be that, let's say Zach Tom in this case, that Zach Tom is a true game time decision, meaning they want to test him on the field right before kickoff. Like, it's literally going to come down to an hour and a half before kickoff. You're putting the inactives in and you're watching him probably 10 minutes before that to see if he can go or not. And if he's feeling good and he can go, you say, great, he's active, and we deactivate Brandt Banks. And if he's not good enough, you say he's deactive and you activate Brandt Banks. In order to do that, in order to be able to have that option, you have to call up Brandt Banks originally, because you can't do it on the spot. You had to do it by the 3 p.m. deadline today and the transaction deadline to elevate him for the game. So you had to do that first. And now you could get into a game time decision situation where, Tom's good enough to play, so we don't need Brandt Banks, so we deactivate him. On game days, where like Thursdays, like we talked about, it's usually less likely that they would do something like that. They usually have a really good feel for it already. But I will say that, what was that update? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I will say that it's not impossible that something like that could be the case. Jeremy Feller just tweeted that Tucker Kraft is high on the Commanders' defensive scouting report for tonight. He's the full package, said Frankie Louvu to Jeremy Fowler. Christian's making the 31-17 prediction. If you had to pick one, who is your one player to watch this week for the Packers to win? Josh Jacobs. I really want to see this running game get going. I think that is the best pathway to Green Bay success. Also an Oregon fan. I just love Green, but Josh is going to have a horrible time tonight. Could very well be the case. And I really like Josh Connerly as well. All right, we're going to get to Dennis's super chat in just a moment. Before we get there, let's do our sleeper picks for the day. Get the comment out of here, Andy. There we go. All right, so I've got 3 picks for today. If you haven't checked out Sleeper yet, I'm having so much fun utilizing Sleeper for all of my picks this year. All right, so here's what I got today. Jordan Love, it's a free pick. So a half a passing yard is all you need. More than 1/2 passing yard for Jordan Love, and that is one of your selections for tonight's game. All right, easy. Matthew Golden, 32.5 receiving yards. Now, you guys know I'm usually telling you stay away from Packers receivers. You just don't know who it's going to be on any given night. Last week, we saw Micah Parsons with the breakout. I think this week we see the new shiny toy on offense with the breakout. I'm going to go Matthew Golden, more than 32.5 receiving yards. And then Terry McLaurin, Yes, I know Green Bay's done a pretty good job of shutting down some of the top targets in the past. 51.5 is not a ton of receiving yards for Terry McLaurin. Like if you held him to like 80, you'd be like, oh, it's a good night for the defense, right? Like if you held him to 80 yards, you'd be like, I'm totally, sign me up right now. So I'm going to go with more than 51.5 receiving yards for Terry McLaurin, more than 32.5 for Matthew Golden, and more than 1/2 passing yard for Jordan Love. You can see up in the upper left there what the contest is for. Make sure to use that code PACKADAY. All right. The link is in the description of today's show. You can go out there, sign up for Sleeper in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions, of course, but make sure to utilize that code PACKADAY when you're signing and getting that 100% match up to $100. I should add on top of that as well. All right, let's get back to all of our great questions here. Get back to our comments. And it was Dennis with the super chat. I just got to find it. There it is. Dennis, I listen to you all day, every day. In a weird way, it feels like we get all the pleasure of getting to know you. I am generally curious your thoughts on the events in Utah yesterday involving Charlie K. As I mentioned earlier, I'll say this. One of the things that I love about what I get to do is that I get to be a distraction from stuff that's going on in real world. Real life sucks, right? There's a lot going on regardless of where we're at. Regardless of what aisle of the spectrum you're on or anything like that. One of my favorite things is that I do get to be a distraction of all the stuff that's going on. It's not to say put your head in the sand. It's not to say ignore it. It's not to say that it's going to go away if we don't keep an eye on it. Nothing like that. But one of the things that I do truly find value in is being able to be, again, something that can take us away for a moment for an hour-long podcast or an hour-long live show from some of all the day-to-day crap that's going on, for lack of a better term. I will absolutely say I denounce violence in any way, shape, or form, regardless of what the situation is. There's better ways to handle everything than something like that. And the last thing I'll just say, again, in regards to anything, is that anything happens like this and we just do the same thing over and over. We're all angry. We're all mad. I'm mad at you. You're mad at me. And we just get angrier and we send more vitriolic tweets out and we just, we make the voices louder that are already on the extremes, that are already the ones that are really loud. And we migrate to those rather than what we actually need to do, which is come closer together and find more compromise and more empathy for one another and more love for one another. So I just wish that we would reverse the direction that we're going in. I think everyone sees that we're not going in a positive direction in any way, shape, or form. It's just only continually getting worse. So we just got to find a way to be better as a humanity. It's not even an American thing. It's a human thing. It's certainly an American thing in a very large way right now. But in a human way, we've got to find a way to come closer together. And if that doesn't happen, more stuff like this is unfortunately going to happen rather than less stuff, which is, I think, is what we all want at this point in time. So I'll just leave it at that. I appreciate the question, Dennis. Don't want to make nothing out of the situation because everything that's going on right now is certainly a degree of difficult and frustrating. But yeah, I think for the rest of the show, we'll go back to being, again, the air of brevity that hopefully all of us need in a time where, we don't always get a lot of it. Go back. Thanks, Andy, for your hard work as usual. Zach Tom, unlikely to go tonight would be my estimation, as we've talked about. All white week 2. Yeah, I don't like the winter warning logo. I don't know what you call it. Like, I guess I don't know if you just call it a whiteout or if you call it something different, but I don't like winter warning. It sounds like a really stupid brand. It's like, I don't like the dream drive for the bikes. Like some of this needs maybe a little bit better of a tagline, but I do like the, Thursday Night Football, all whites. I think it's going to look really clean out there. Terry has definitely heard us in the past as well. No question about it. I think PFF said it was the penalty that mostly bit X. Yeah, whatever. Eckler is hurt, I think, whether or not he plays. I don't think it will have issues with the run game unless we let JD5 run wild. I think Eckler is going to play. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he was on the injury report, but it's a wild bill that you have to probably be a little bit more cautious of in this one. Chris, go to you as well. Can't wait for the post game. Yes, Ross is going to be fantastic, so make sure to check that out after the game. I'm going 27-17 for Green Bay in this one. If the two offensive linemen are out, how does it change the game plan? Do you think they lean more on the run game? I think they're going to want to run the ball no matter what. So I do think they're going to lean on that, but I don't think it changes it exponentially. And as we kind of talked about, I think the beautiful thing about Darian Kennard and certainly Jordan Morgan as well is that you can still go out and run your offense and not feel like you have to change things in any real significant way. Probably helping again a little bit more on the right side for Kennard, where usually you're going to let Zach Tom go one-on-one. And if you need to help something, you're usually going to help your left tackle a little bit more. I think today you're going to trust Rasheed Walker a little bit more to go one-on-one. And it's probably Darian Kennard who's maybe getting a little bit more help in some of those obvious pass rush situations. Other than that, I don't think you need to change things up too ridiculously much in this game. All right. I'm also ready for Musgrave to pop off. A big Musgrave game would go a long way in just giving you another option, another weapon to kind of to get you some positive yardage down the field. Maybe even an explosive play here or there. But yeah, we need to see a little bit more from Musgrave. No question about it. At least be like a red zone threat, something. Just need something that we can latch onto with Luke Musgrave. Who's my favorite Packer on the team right now? That's a good question. I'm trying to think who that might ultimately be. I just really like this team in totality. I'm not going to lie. I really love watching Edgerrin Cooper. That's probably up there. Evan Williams is a blast to watch. Probably Edgerrin Cooper. I'm going to probably go Edgerrin Cooper right now. He's probably 1A on my list. It's a really fun team overall. It's kind of almost difficult to pick at this point in time. No news on Nate Hobbs, but I think it's good news that they only activated one corner with Bill Melton already being out. But until we see hour and a half before kickoff, nothing that I've seen as of yet. Yep, 3-0 against Dan Quinn. Do I agree that Hopper should be a starter? So last week he got in for a snap for McDuffie at linebacker. And I don't know if that's going to be something where they have like a package of plays in for him. Cooper and Quay are your starters, right? So you're going to play nickel 80+% of the time. And so those are your two starters. So clearly Hopper should not be involved in that discussion. As far as the McDuffie Hopper discussion, I'm fine with you either rotating, platooning, or whatever there. I don't know how much you can platoon. It's 4-3. You're already not playing much 4-3 as it is. But I do want to see some of those plays go a little bit more to Hopper rather than McDuffie. I just think Hopper adds another element and dimension to that third linebacker spot. I think he can be really good. And I just think getting him more reps is going to elevate him even more. So I don't know if he needs to take McDuffie's spot in totality right now, but I would like to start to see more of those reps go to him over the course of time. All right. Do you think we're going to see a game of patty cake like we did a lot early last year to contain Daniels, or will they go after him more and just spy to avoid gash scrambles? Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of everything. And that's certainly what Jeff Hafley said in his press conference as well. They're probably going to use a spy at times. They're probably going to mush rush at times, kind of like you're saying, play that patty cake up front and just kind of keep him in the pocket a little bit more. I think there's going to be times where they come after him too. If they come after him, they might have checks and balances in place to make sure that he can't take off for some of those big scrambles. Maybe there's a spy on top of it, but they're going to have to be careful. But I think being too careful is also a flaw. I think you're going to see some aggression, but it's going to be controlled aggression, and it's going to be picking your spots, hopefully the right moment at the right time to call some of those plays. When will we see the Matthew Golden breakout game? Well, first of all, Tyler, it's only been one game, right? But hopefully tonight is that night. And as we went over with our sleeper picks, I'm leaning in that direction for tonight. As a fan, how do you react to big plays while in the press box? No reaction. Just chill as chill can be. It's not a difficult thing. Honestly, when I'm watching at home, for the most part, it's the same way. Like there might be like at home, like a fist bump or like a clap and a let's go. I'm pretty even keeled overall in regular season game. Now playoffs is a little bit different. There's a little bit more heart racing, heart pounding moments in the playoffs, but no, you're in a professional press box. It's business, right? Like you're there to do work and to focus on the game and analyze the game. And that's my job when I'm there. So, I mean, if I wanted to cheer, right, I could buy a ticket to the game or I could watch from home. I have that option. I'm not forced to be in the press box by anyone, but no, it's a fun atmosphere to get to be in. Working around people that are obviously doing this for a living. Seeing people like Paul Brettel, etc. Jacob Westendorf. I sit right next to Jacob. We do have seating charts, by the way. You might be surprised. So I'm right in the main row. It's me, and then Jacob Westendorf, Bill Huber, then I think Rob Domofsky, and then I think it's Schneidman, and then I think Wilde right after that. It's kind of then like the Press Gazette people are down further to the left, and then you've got Paul Brettel and a lot of more of the TV and radio media down to the right. And yeah, we do have seating charts, believe it or not. But yeah, so no reaction. Again, the what if you hear a reaction in the press box, it's usually like a big play or like a big hit, or you might hear like, oh, where it's not like a cheer. It's like, oh, that was a big, like an impressed with the big play, regardless of what team it is. Meaning like you're not cheering, you're just be like, wow, that was impressive, or oh, that was a big play. It's a little bit more of that than like a, oh yeah, go, 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 or anything like, it's not that type of mentality when you're in the press box. Cox is, so there's no longer like a designated to return until you want to designate someone to return. So we have no indication based on putting Brenton Cox on IR at this point of how long he'll be out, other than you have to keep him out for at least 4 games. That's the only thing we know. It could be that they never bring him back. It could be that they bring him back in 5 weeks or anything in between. We just don't know by him being put on IR anything other than the fact that he's going to at least miss 4 weeks. Victory cold pizza for breakfast. There will be a victory pizza tomorrow. Won't be tonight. I know that much, a little bit late in the night, but like I said, I think it's going to be a victory breakfast pizza tomorrow morning is what I'm leaning towards. There are 2 keys to success that will be pertinent for victory tonight. Establish the run game early with Jacobs, maintain gap and lane discipline. If both are done, we're winning tonight. Yeah, those were 2 of the ones that I talked about pretty heavily with Mike Wall as well. Those were definitely my 2 keys as well. We're in lockstep there, Isaiah. Bakersfield, California. Love it. Enjoy the game. Commanders have not won in Lambeau since 1988. I hope it doesn't start tonight. That is a long, long time. I did not realize that. Great stat. Your username sucks. Go Pack Go from the UK. Ready for 1:15 a.m. kickoff. Enjoy the late kickoff, Matt. And it's not exactly the same, but I will tell you, I don't always enjoy waking up sometimes at like 6, 7, 8 in the morning for Liverpool games. So I will note that you have it, I think, worse having to stay up late than me get up early. But I will say I don't always enjoy getting up super early for some of those Liverpool games either. What do they need to do to spring the run game tonight? Just block better, Matt. I wish I had something that was a little bit more insightful for you, but they just need to block better up front, move some people, open up some lanes, and let Josh Jacobs get going a little bit more. Tommy's picking the Commanders. I don't know if you're a Commanders fan or a Packers fan, Tommy, but listen, this is going to be a really good game. And if you told me the Commanders 130-124 would certainly not be the most shocking thing in the world. They're a very good football team. I like Green Bay in this one, but that's what makes this game really, really fun. Don't know if they're going to do the sharp ceremony televised or not, but hopefully the Packers put it up on YouTube or do something later where people will be able to see that. Ethan, I don't know if I actually agree with that. I think there was a lot of really positive talk about Edgerrin Cooper this week. I heard a lot of it. Certainly, I saw a lot of praise online about Edgerrin Cooper. He was phenomenal, no question about it. Had a really high grade from me. I didn't look at what PFF gave him, but he was fantastic and certainly saw a lot of praise for him online for what he was able to do. Parsons had 4.5 sacks in 2 games versus Daniels. I don't think his success changes tonight, especially with the line that we have. That's the hope. Certainly the hope. Compare Parsons to Clay. It's a good question. I think Parsons is just a little bit more twitched up and a little bit more, I would say, physical and even maybe a little bit more bendable around the edge. Clay was tenacious and unbelievable speed. He also could convert speed to power, but then he had a little bit of like a spin move. I think Clay was a little bit more crafty and tenacious, although we certainly know Micah is very tenacious as well. And I think Micah just has a little bit more freak to him from a twitched up standpoint. Both really freaking good. I will say this, and you guys have heard me say this before. I still don't think Clay Matthews gets like the legendary recognition that he deserves. Like we talk about Leroy Butler and Reggie White, and we even talk about like Nick Collins in that way, and Charles Woodson, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. We talk about Clay Matthews is deserving of that legendary status in Green Bay. Not only was he like the big time pass rusher during that time, not only was he like defensive player of the year category during that time, he was the one who made the big play on the Spillett Pickett, Spillett Pickett forced fumble on that play. I mean, one of the more legendary plays in Packers lore. I don't totally get it. I don't know why he isn't in that complete, like, sort of legendary Packer status. I think he should be. I don't know why he's not. I think it's beyond ridiculous. I don't know. It's weird to me. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. All-time Green Bay Packers stud, Clay Matthews. Wish it was at Lambeau. Every time Coop makes a tackle, crowd should yell, Coop. Hey, go for it. Packers not only cover, but win by at least 10 again. Book it. I love it. Most hated Minnesotan. Tails never fails. So that not only are the Commanders the oldest team in the league, but that they're the oldest team since somewhere in the 90s. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, tale of two very different team building traits. No question about it. All right, we're going to finish up these really quick. Andy, do I have a pregame ritual before going into the press box? Always been intrigued what a press member does before kickoff. So here's my usual routine. So get to the stadium, usually about hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes before game time. I usually, if I'm around that hour and a half mark, I either try to make sure I get to the press box at an hour and a half because that's when the inactives come out, or I'll stay in my car up until that point. So I just can tweet it out from my car or whatever. But then usually I make my way to the stadium. We're parked right kind of kitty corner from Lambeau. Make my way to the stadium. There's a little press box entrance. Go through security. So you have to scan your face. So it's facial recognition. Scan your face, and then you go through a metal detector, and then you put your backpack with your laptop and everything through a security check. Walk all the way down the security hall, and then you get inside of Lambeau from there. From there, you walk up 2 flights of stairs, and then you walk outside in this almost like concourse area that's open. It's an open air outside area where you walk from there into another area where you get into an elevator, take it upstairs to the press box, and then usually go to my seat right away, set up my computer, my chargers, my phone, etc., get my notebook set up and get ready for the game. Greet Jacob Westendorf and usually Paul Brettel and some other people there in the press box. Then I usually go and grab some food because they are nice enough to provide food for us, grab a soda, and then make my way back, eat my food, drink my soda, and then, kind of get ready for game day, start keeping an eye on what the offensive line configuration looks like out on the field and just some of the other stuff. And then that's pretty much it. Now, if it's like a 3 p.m. game, I'm usually then kind of watching the end of the noon games. If it's a 7 o'clock game, you're usually watching the end of the 3 p.m. games and doing some of that stuff. But other than that, it's just kind of prep for the game, getting everything ready, and then it's game time, and then it's go time from there. But nothing crazy, no crazy ritual or anything like that. But that's my routine usually, going from to the state or from outside the stadium up until kickoff and going from there. Let's see. What do the Packers do if when they run out of the 3 call-ups for Micah Robinson, wonder if he will not even see the field again tonight. Yeah, I think that's something that you don't worry about until you need to worry about it. He might not need more if you can just get healthy at corner. The other thing to recognize, I was going to say, I thought they had one more corner on the practice squad, but I guess they don't. I forgot that Kalen King went elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, at some point you just probably get another corner on the roster, but at this point, I'm not concerned over that. You use the 3 when you need them. And then if eventually you need to put another corner on the roster, you do so. Sometimes teams, by the way, what they will do is you use your 3 elevations for the player. And then after that, you remove him from the practice squad and you bring in a new corner to the practice squad. And then they have 3 elevations there. So that could be something they do with Micah. Now, he is a 7th round pick, so I don't think they're going to do that. But that is a possibility as well. It's like once you run out of elevations, it's like, well, you don't really have much use to us anymore. So let's bring in a new corner who has those elevations available. That could be the case. I don't think it will be, but it's not impossible. Chris says he has some good money on the pack tonight. Moneyline keeps giving Green Bay better odds as the day goes on. Any team reason you think, or just the betting swinging the odds? Wrong person to ask when it comes to that stuff, Chris, but I certainly wish you the best of luck and hope that you strike it rich tonight on your Packers pick there. All right, I've probably got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to double check our super chats here, then probably go to the end of the list and see if anything else came in. All right. I think Wicks is better than Reed, but Golden is wide receiver 1. I think this still, guys, when Matt LaFleur said it best, the wide receiver 1 talk makes him want to puke. It doesn't have to be this way. There doesn't need to be a wide receiver 1. Let's just let things play out. I think we saw it last week. They dominated Detroit without one receiver having more than like 4 targets on the day. Maybe Reed had 5, but I don't think anyone had more than 3 catches, and they dominated Detroit. So it doesn't have to be this way. Let's just let things play out. If somebody takes the number 1 wide receiver spot by accident or just happenstance or whatever, awesome. So be it. If somebody is that great, I'm happy to have that great of a wide receiver on the team. If not, I still believe to this day, Watson, Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, Golden, Savion, Musgrave, Kraft, Jacobs, Lloyd, that group of 10 players I just named is a really dynamic group of weapons that brings you 10 completely different flavors of playmakers for this team. They have a bunch of different stuff that you can do with this group. I'm not actually, there's even more than that, because there's Watson, Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, Golden, Savion Williams. All right, so Savion Williams is number 6. Then Kraft, Musgrave, Lloyd, and Jacobs. That doesn't even include Chris Brooks, Emmanuel Wilson, etc. I love that group of playmakers in totality. So yeah, I think they have more than enough. I don't really care about wide receiver 1, if I'm being totally honest. Like you and Paul said, we don't know any specific assignments based off play calling. PFF doesn't know that either. Yeah, so I just think you have to know what you know. You have to know what you don't know. When you're evaluating a player, to me, I'm not evaluating like a coach would evaluate it, meaning I'm not evaluating if he did his assignment correctly. If he was supposed to block down and he blocked differently, I may not know that. Sometimes I do, because you can tell what play they're calling, right? And if 4 offensive linemen are moving one way and the other one goes in the completely wrong direction, you can usually tell some of that stuff pretty easily. A lot of times concepts mirror themselves, or what everyone else is doing, you can kind of fill in the gaps, but that's not what I'm trying to evaluate. When I'm grading a play, I'm more trying to evaluate, all right, Josh Jacobs got the ball in a handoff. Did he see the hole that was there? Did he run to the right spot? Did he go the way that the play was able to be designed? Was he able to get yards after contact? Was he able to make somebody miss in the open field? That's the stuff that I'm evaluating. It's not necessarily did he run the play the way exactly as it was supposed to, because sometimes, a lot of times, I may not know that. So I'm more evaluating what he did with the opportunity that was presented to him. Same thing with a receiver, with a ball that's thrown down the field. It's a 50-50. Did he go up and make that play? Did he drop it? Did he go up and make a spectacular one-headed catch? Those are the things that you can evaluate. You have to know what you can't evaluate. You have to know what you can. And I'm more focused on, evaluating what I actually can evaluate in those situations. Ralph, I love that you are not feeling good about this one. I would so much rather be in a place where I don't feel good about it. I feel more pressure when I feel good about a game. I feel really good about this one. I wish I didn't. I wish I felt really crappy, because then you go in and be like, all right, well, I already feel crappy. If they lose, then I don't know. I guess I was right. If they win, now I feel even better. I hate going into a game feeling confident. I feel confident in this one. I'm glad that you feel crappy. I think feeling crappy going into a game is actually better. But either way, what I feel and what you feel, I promise you, does not matter one way, shape, or form. What's going to happen is going to happen one way or the other. Our tight ends and run game have torched Dan Quinn in the past. I think Matt LaFleur needs to pull out a wild card and use Williams and Golden. We'll see. I mean, Williams only got 1 real snap, and it was a play designed for him. We'll see if they have anything more for him kind of designed this week, but I do think we'll see more Golden. I don't necessarily think or know if we'll see more Williams in this one. Thank you for all your great coverage, Andy. Player of the game, Golden, I hope. I would love it. I think he's due for a big game in this one, but due is the wrong statement. He's in game 2 of his career, but I do think that they could utilize him a little bit more in this one. I'll put it that way. Hayden, thank you for the super chat. I often see Matt LaFleur joking with the reporters in the press conferences. When you're in there, do you enjoy his energy and demeanor? Matt has a very different energy and demeanor based on the press conference. And you have to kind of feel that out a little bit of like, all right, what Matt are we getting? Sometimes he is very short, and even sometimes a little bit bordering on like cantankerous, of like, you can just tell he doesn't want to be there, and you're just going to get short responses. There's other times where he's very jovial and goofing around and happy-go-lucky and happy to kind of go back and forth with you. That's the one that you want. I've said this in the past, but the person asking the first question sometimes can really set the tone. And that's not a Matt thing. That's just a general press conference thing of like, sometimes you just almost want that first question to just be like, hey, let's get to know each other, and not get to know each other, but like, let's start this thing nice and easy. Like, how you feeling about today's game? Or like, just something a little bit more easygoing. And then, you don't want to start with like, some hard-hitting question or some ridiculous question that immediately gets things kind of off on the wrong foot. And then you might just get short answers the rest of the way. But in general, yes, I think Matt's very fun to cover. I enjoy covering him. And you guys know I think he's doing a great job as head coach of the Packers. All right, Steve, we have a couple more towards the bottom here. How many Packer hats do I own? Just two, I think. I think I only own two Packer hats. All right, what else we got here? Seabass never feels good about any game. Isn't that part of being a Packer fan? Yes, very much so. People keep saying Green Bay will have to designate one for contract reasons because the players will eventually want to get paid. I think you definitely can. I think you can definitely do receiver by committee. The comment today by Richard Sherman was just absurd. Now, I'll be fair to Richard. I did not go and actually view it. I saw like the tweet about it or whatever. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And maybe something was taken out of context or lost in translation or just whatever. But like, the idea that they need a number one receiver to be designated because otherwise this is going to get out of control or they're not going to. They just signed a receiver to a contract extension who wanted to stay here in Green Bay, knowing how many mouths they have to feed in this offense. And everyone seems to be on the same page. You had a 1-game suspension for Romeo last year where there's maybe a little bit of an issue. I don't know. Overall, not super concerned about it. And I think they're doing a great job of keeping those wide receivers very happy within the team overall. I'll take the over on 12.5 sacks for Micah Parsons. Let's see. Anything else? Just seeing if there's any other good questions before we get out of here. Lambeau Field Press Box does have Wi-Fi. It was not working at all on my phone last week. It was very annoying. My computer was working fine, but don't know why it was not working on my phone. But yes, they do have Wi-Fi. Who do you think the 2 to 3 underrated Packers are that could be keys to a win tonight for Green Bay? I'm not going to say this. The first one I'm not going to say is necessarily a player, but I think special teams is going to have a very big impact on this one. So special teams in general, I will say, as far as like underrated players, I think Sean Ryan could be one that has a really big impact. I thought he had a really great game in week 1. And if he can carry that over, hopefully open some things up in the run game, I think he could be one of those unsung heroes. I'm going to say Nazir Stackhouse too. I think we can see just a little bit more Nazir. Actually, no, I lied. We're playing Washington. You're not going to see a ton of like condensed sets. So I'm going to take that one back. I'm going to say Carl Brooks. I'll stay with defensive tackle, but I'll say Carl Brooks. I think Carl Brooks could be one that has a bigger impact in this one. Micah had 4.5 sacks against Washington last year, Jeffrey, in 2 games. If pizza does not exist, are you picking tacos, burgers, or Chinese food? First of all, I love all 3, but this would absolutely be between tacos and burgers, but I do love Chinese food. I'm going to go tacos. It's pretty easy. I probably eat more tacos than I eat anything else in my life. I eat a ton of tacos. So while I'm known for pizza, I actually probably eat way more tacos than anything else. So it's tacos, but I love burgers too. No question about it. You are right, though, that Chinese food does have way more options with it. So that's a good way of looking at it. But tacos are definitely my go-to. Tacos also have way different ways. You're right. Favorite 3 taco places in Green Bay. That's actually interesting. I actually don't usually go out for tacos. I just make my own tacos. So I don't go out for tacos much. Vintage is downtown Green Bay. I love going to. Like, you only need a couple of those tacos. Those things are rich as hell. But I do really like going to Vintage. I am an old school Los Banditos guy. And then I don't think I have a third place. I need to try the new cantina at Lambeau Field or in the Titletown district. I haven't tried that yet. But honestly, my other one would probably just be Chipotle, would probably be my third. All right. Well, who's got one more good question for me? Then I'm going to get out of here. All right, here we go. Tony, you're the last one. Tune in late. What's the projected starting lineup, assuming both starters are inactive? How do you think they'll hold up? All right, we're not going to do that in the last one because we covered this quite a bit already. But Rasheed Walker, Jordan Morgan, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, and Darian Kennard is the expected group. Is it worth trying to get a Malik Willis a contract extension while we don't need to? I've talked about this a lot in the past. I would offer it. I don't know that Malik takes it, but if you can find a compromise that makes sense for both sides, absolutely. Even if it's just a 1-year extension, would love to have him back as a backup quarterback for a year or 2 more if possible. Baron Sorrell should be the Brenton Cox replacement today. Sorrell has no injury designation. They didn't call up a defensive end. I'm sure they're still going to want 5, especially with Mike on a little bit more of a snap count. So we should see the debut of Baron Sorrell today. And last but not least, when all things come around, the Bears still suck. Craig says Edgerrin Cooper gets a sack. Just getting in here late, so late, but it's game day, Andy. Can't wait. Go Pack Go. Or can we get a Go Pack Go? Yes, absolutely. We always will get a Go Pack Go. All right, friends, I am going to head out. Thank you to the 800 exactly people who are here in chat. This was a really fun one. Appreciate you guys a ton. Ross Uglum, immediately following the post-game show today, immediately following the game, he'll have the live post-game show. Camille Davis will have a immediate reaction to today's game. We'll have an updated podcast, I believe, from Matt, Janelle, and Eli for tomorrow morning. And of course, I'll have a brand new podcast for you as well. 5 a.m. tomorrow morning that will go live, breaking down everything, both on YouTube and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Enjoy the freaking game, everyone. We only get 17 guaranteed, hopefully, plus a big playoff run as well. But there's only so many of these that we get. Today's one of those. So enjoy the hell out of it. I'll see you guys all very, very soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.